All right. So if you're an agent at Remax, Coldwell Banker, or Keller Williams, this is going to be an interesting phone call or an interesting call because with Stephanie Fetrow, who is a team leader here at Real. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about her journey to Real and what were some of the factors that led to that decision. So Stephanie, thanks for coming on and talking with me.
You bet. So great to meet you, and happy to help educate other realtors in what they're trying to do in their career and guiding them. My husband and I started in 2006 and 2007 and found our way to Keller Williams because of the education that was touted that they could provide, which is good. It was what we needed at the time, but we really found a disconnect between producing agents and new agents. Like a lot of them didn't have time for us. And the team leader was so busy recruiting that we kind of got lost in the shuffle. And so we knew real quick we needed something different. And a couple came along that was in our circle of influence and said, hey, we're opening a Remax office. Come be some of our founding agents.
How many years were you with Keller Williams?
So my husband had been there just over a year. He joined about 6 months before me. And then for me, it was about 6-7 months. So,
okay.
And he was still working a full-time job at the time. And I was growing our baby number 4. So it was a little hard. We say we were about 3/4 of an agent between the two of us.
Okay. But overall, did you like the experience at Keller Williams? What were some of the highlights there?
I did like the training. I liked the hands-on because I didn't like the extra cost of it. But I did like, knowing that I had somebody I could go to. They had a mentorship program, which seemed good. I wasn't paired with the best mentor. So, and I didn't get a choice. I was just said, here is your mentor. And they will supervise you for the first 3 transactions and you will pay them. So, so I believe in training. I believe in mentorship, just at a different style, I suppose.
I think that most people do see Keller Williams as being like the number one training brokerage for brand new agents just because they have that structure. I've never been with them, but I've worked with a lot of Keller Williams agents that seem to do well as a good starting place. But you do pay quite a bit of money for that training. So what were the big things that you were looking for out of Coldwell Banker when you made that switch from KW to Coldwell Banker?
So we actually went to Remax first. Coldwell Banker is where we landed last. So we needed more hand holding. And so that's what got us at Remax. We had somebody who came and poured into us directly. It wasn't an ad we answered. It wasn't, then there wasn't like a whole lot of YouTube. So that's where we ended up was at a Remax office with a broker owner who husband-wife team who wanted to see us succeed. They opened up their playbook. They gave us like, here's our listing presentation. Here's what we do to attract a buyer. And just said, make it yours. And so I loved, that was kind of my first introduction to a very collaborative environment. Unfortunately, he sold it about 4 years later. But in those 4 years, we had doubled production every year. We had started our team, and I had started doing training for the office. And so the next 4 years, we continued that. I continued training, helping the office with that. But then I saw that our business was suffering, so I wanted to step back into our business. So I stepped away from the training function. And some other agents in the office left to go to a Coldwell Banker brokerage nearby. And I was like, tell me more about that, because I never thought they would leave where we were. And they introduced us to the broker owner. And I just felt like a kindred spirit with her. And so we made a leap in, it was 2016 to Coldwell Banker. And one of the things she promised was to help us double our business again. We kind of hit a plateau.
I want to ask you about that, though, because it does sound like at Remax, you got poured into by this couple. And, I think that's oftentimes the biggest thing that agents are missing is somebody or some source to basically guide you in the way that you need to go in order to get new business, because there's so many different ways that you can go about trying to get new business. A lot of times, that's the main thing that we need as new agents to just get started. Because if you don't have any deals, it doesn't matter if you can service those deals. So with that being said, like how much production were you kind of doing at Remax, if you don't mind me asking?
So we were probably at about 70 transactions between the two of us, my husband and I, which is a lot. And,
you're crushing.
Yeah. And raising 4 kids, one with special needs. and and it was the only income we had. So we knew we had to make it work. We couldn't fail for our family and for our, our own peace of mind. And but we hit a plateau for about 2 years in a row. There, we felt like we had gleaned all we could from the model and the broker owner. And so our goal was to find something else. And so we started doing Tom Ferry coaching, which is great. Had a little trouble finding just the right coach.
Yeah.
And it costs money. So I'm a big proponent of finding coaches that work in your environment. We still do Tom Ferry coaching to this day. But jumping to Coldwell Banker, she, the broker owner there, said, I will help you grow again. And if I don't help you grow, I'll help you go back.
And why did you want to grow? If you're doing 70 transactions, a lot of folks are probably those who are at 5, 10, 15, 20 transactions a year. They probably hear something like that and they're like, man, that's where I want to be. So it's hard to even imagine why that would be a problem. So what were some of the, what are the problems that you experience when you're doing some of these transactions?
The problem was we were doing so much business. We didn't have time for our family. And so our goal at that point was to grow a team. To step a little bit back from day-to-day production and step into mentorship and leading of a team so that the weekends weren't filled with showings and open houses and appointments, but maybe a little bit more kid stuff and a little bit more family time. And also pour into newer agents to help them not make the mistakes we made as new agents. Making sure they set up their finances right, making sure they allowed for family time, making sure that they protected their sleep and their health and just all the well-rounded things that go with being a solo proprietor or, business owner.
That makes sense. So in other words, when you were thinking about making this switch to Coldwell Banker, you were primarily looking for guidance on, okay, how do I get to that next level of running a team, scaling up, putting maybe systems in place, things of that nature?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
So how did that whole process switch into Coldwell Banker go?
It went great because they had a more robust training program that I was able to pour my agents into. They had a special group for top producers, so we could go and powwow and do circle time, FaceTime with agents who were producing like we were and talk about the challenges at that level, because there's challenges at every level of real estate. And you got to find your people. You got to find the people that are in the same trenches as you, find those that are ahead of you that you can learn from, and then find those that are behind you and help them come along the path too. And so Coldwell Banker had a great program for that allowed us to plug in real quickly.
Very cool. And so, how long were you at Coldwell Banker? Did you scale the team to the level that you wanted it to scale to? How did that go?
So we were there from 16 to 22, 2016 to 2022. The team, team members come and go. They have different things in their lives. So we had team members come. We had one that was with us over 6 years. Big success story there. His wife joined him in the industry. And then after about 2 years with the two of them together, we said, hey guys, you're crushing it on your own. Why don't you go launch? And they're like, well, yeah, we're planning on that. 2 years from now, we're like, why wait? You got your spirit dialed in. You've got all the systems going. Let us help you take that next step and become your own. And so they're like, okay, 6 months. I'm like, I bet we can do it in 3. And they're like, what? I'm like, wow. I think it's just for you. I'm like, and we're still here. And to this day, we still get together with them. We follow each other's social. We keep in touch. And they're still at Coldwell Banker. Love them dearly. But for us, bringing agents in that were like family has been a big part of who we are. And those tend to be the ones who stay. My assistant, who's been with us for 8 years, her husband works for us. My daughter works for us. My nephew works for us. One of my daughter's high school friends works for us. So, it's just, that's kind of the family environment we have looked to achieve. And so the struggle we had at Coldwell Banker, though, is it cost us so much to do what we were trying to do.
If you don't mind me asking, what were those splits?
So we were at a 90-10 because we were top producers, which is great, but the 10 never really ended. And on top of that, there was a broker service fee, which was 6% that never ended. Mm-hmm. And so, and our caps were higher. Those I can't talk about because proprietary stuff, but, and I honor that relationship. but we had a monthly fee. Everybody in the team had a monthly fee to the brokerage. And we had a lot with that.
$150, something like that?
It was 108, so it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
With that, we had access to all the offices across the Metroplex, which was awesome.
Sure.
But I found that wasn't, after a while, especially after COVID, that wasn't as critical as it had been previously.
Sure.
Also having, the market being a little weird and wonky, as it is, we all know now, those are great terms. Some of my team members were struggling even to do deals. And so even 108 a month was cost prohibitive on top of their licensing and their MLS and their Supra and all the other fees that go along with keeping a license.
Sure.
So at a Tom Ferry coaching event, we came across my now mentor here at Real, Katie Day, and I'd known her from the Coldwell Banker world. She'd previously come from there. And we're like, what is Real? Like, there's a brokerage, tell us more about it. And so we got at a Zoom with her and her husband, Ryan, and just we asked him, just lay it out for us. What does it look like? And why would somebody make a leap? And so they started sharing some of their benefits. Of course, they asked us first, like, what's important to you? What do you need? And I'm like, well, I need collaboration. I need to know I do have a broker, but I really don't need the broker because we've been doing this so long and I'm about to get my broker's license as well. But I don't want the full responsibility of being the broker.
Not everyone wants to be able to have that legal liability of other folks on their plate.
Yeah, for sure. So as they laid out things for us, and then they started sharing about, the stock and the education and the networking. And I'm like, okay, I'm not one to make quick jumps and make quick decisions. So this was a long, long decision process for me. But my husband was like, he's a numbers guy. He's like, this makes sense. This is the best place we could put our team to position them best. And I'm like, okay, but I needed an office. I'm like, I don't work well at home. And so that was part of my thing to him. Like, before we can do this, you got to find me a place to land. So that's how we got here.
So I suppose when you were at Coldwell Banker, the support structure was there. You had resources at your disposal. You had plenty of offices. It wasn't necessarily that you were struggling there, but when you looked at basically the financial model side by side, you found that it was better for your agents, primarily those who maybe struggled even paying the monthly fees that they had, and then basically the indefinite, maybe not fully indefinite, but seemingly indefinite caps that you might have had at Coldwell Banker. Those were kind of the main things that kind of like started that conversation. And then basically, from what I'm understanding, the stocks, the community, some of the other like culture things, those were just kind of like icing on the cake for you.
Yeah, I would say that for sure. It was definitely the dollars and made sense first. And then as we dived in and learned more about the community, I said we're Tom Ferry coaching clients, and that collaborative environment we love. It's next level. And we discovered a lot of our friends there at Tom Ferry were switching over to Real. And so we're like, okay, best of both worlds. We take all of our coaching friends and we join them at a brokerage that has figured out how to do this across all the U.S. and Canada, with amazing opportunities to not have to always be partnering with different brokerages or different franchises even across state boundaries. Like, for example, right now my daughter's getting her Oklahoma license. We're pretty close to Oklahoma. We're about 45 minutes. So, and we spent a lot of time up on the lake there. So it makes sense. She's going to show houses in Oklahoma this afternoon with a partner who's already licensed there. So she can kind of learn the environment, but not having to worry about two splits and, two caps and two everything. It's all one. It's just kind of a no-brainer. And then that's where I can network with other agents across other states to support them in their business, because they know the market. I know Real. The training is how to take care of clients is the same wherever you go. You take care of people and you do good. You treat them kindly and you work hard.
Yeah, 100%. For instance, I was just talking to a guy, team leader at Century 21 a few days ago. And he was like, I don't know about a cloud-based brokerage because you don't have that same like office culture. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He was like, I can just, pop my head over on the other side of the hall and talk to this other producer or talk to this other person. And I was like, yeah, I get that. But at the same time, it's like once you have experienced the community at a cloud-based brokerage, you can see that actually you and I, for instance, we're collaborating, and you're in Texas and I'm in Maryland, And my first introduction to Real as well was another Real agent who was in DC, and he didn't, know the Southern Maryland market very well. And so he saw me on social media and he was like, "Hey, Jonathan, listen," and I'm sure he'd be okay with me sharing this, but his parents were, his mom was passing, his father was going through a hard time. He had a lot on his shoulders in terms of just stuff that he was going through. And so he was like, "You know what? I need another agent down in Southern Maryland in order to, help me out with that." The fact that agents are not only willing to collaborate when needed, but also just in general happy to help each other out, that I think is, that's the real culture. That's the real community. That's what people are really looking for. It's not necessarily proximity. That's beneficial and that's helpful, but it's more so that when you need something, somebody's got your back. And when you get on Workplace or whatever and you say, "Hey guys, I'm trying to figure out this, who can help me?" You get like 10, 15 responses. That's what people are looking for, I think.
Yeah. And I think that collaboration with Workplace is great because at my past brokerage, we used a Facebook page. The agents never got on Facebook. So I had to get help from them. I had to see them in person. So I had to wait and hope we would end up in the same place at the same time and had time to ask the questions. And a lot of times...
A lot of variables right there.
Yeah, it was a lot. Whereas now, like you said, I get on Workplace any time of the day, which I do tell my agents, stop working at about 9 o'clock at night, get your rest, come back bright and early in the morning. But if I can't sleep, I can get on Workplace. I can search previous questions. I can post my own. And then I get alerted when I have an answer. And so I'm not sitting there waiting and stewing. I'm moving on to the next thing because I've asked it. I've put it out there. And then if I need to get on a Zoom, I get to see a person face to face. And, let's not even, our leadership is just like top notch. I've gotten to meet Sharon a couple of times. And the first time I met him in person, I'd been on a couple of Zooms already with him. And I walked up to him and he's like, "Stephanie." And I'm like, "You know me? Like, we've only been on Zoom together." He's like, "I'm so excited to see you here. This is awesome." And so just that warmth. Coldwell Banker president, never met him. Remax president, never met them. Like KW, never. Maybe it's because they were so huge at this point. I don't know. But I just feel like
they're also, like in my experience, not exactly running Zoom calls with their average agents.
Exactly. I think that's the big difference is that our leadership top down, they want to be invested with us. They want what's best for us. And they run a lean, mean ship. There's not a whole lot of overhead. What we pay to the company is what it takes to make the company work. And the rest gets poured back into the agents, which is unheard of. Keller Williams, we were excited about the downline. But when we discovered if the market center wasn't profitable, there was no profit. And so if at the end of paying the bills each month, there was no money left, there was nothing to share.
Oh, yeah. So I had heard that Keller Williams had some sort of like networking opportunities similar to our RevShare program. So how does that work?
So we were only there again for like a year and a half. And my husband came in first. He joined under a friend of ours. Then when I joined under my husband. And then we put all our production in me so that we could do that benefit. In the 6-7 months that we were there, we had 3 or 4 transactions and we saw maybe a $10 check one time because the market center was not profitable. So
in other words, what you receive based on the people that you bring into the business, that's dependent upon the profitability, not the revenue, just the profitability of the office. So if there's no profitability, nobody gets anything. If there is profitability, then everyone gets like some sort of percentage based on their production.
Yeah. Percentage based upon what their level. And it went down, I don't know, 10 levels. But could you imagine if, your market center is not profitable and you're not even getting from the first level, there's no way for any other levels to open up. So.
Right. Yeah. And I guess that's like the, it's kind of taken away the purpose of how at least I view RevShare here and how I think a lot of other agents view it, which is when me personally, I am down and I'm having a tough month or whatever, but I've got $1,000, $2,000 coming in through rev share. Maybe at this point, it's not enough to, really float me long term or retire or anything like that. But at the moment, like that's enough to, pay like maybe my mortgage, like maybe your mortgage, maybe 3/4 of the mortgage. But either way, it's providing that safety net that you need. But if it's going up and down based on the profitability of the marketplace, then it kind of takes away from that safety net, I suppose.
Well, and the way I look at it is, it's my job to pour into anybody that I influence to a decision. And so if they're joining Real because of my influence, I am going to be pouring into them. I have a couple agents that I co-share with other team leaders that are in other states. And so they had a relationship with them first, but they knew they didn't know Texas. And so they reached out to their workplace and said, hey, we need a Texas expert who's willing to mentor our friends that are getting in the business there, and who's open. And so I got on Zoom calls with both of them and told them what I had to offer. And they're like, okay, great. I want to introduce you to my friend. And now I'm helping both of those ladies with starting their business here, answering questions about contracts and forms and how-tos in our market. And, so it's like a team within a team that I'm helping them grow. And they're solo agents in our area, but they need help. And that's the greatest piece, I think, about Real, is that you're not in a silo. You're not in I'm only in this office, so I can only help people in my office, or I'm only in this franchise or this brokerage. We're all together. Like, help each other out. We've got agents helping each other with open houses, opening doors, meeting clients, meeting vendors. Like, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, for sure. One of the questions that I had for you was, I'm curious to know, because you've been in these other brokerages, it seems like there always is a perfect person for that brokerage. And even Sharon, our president, he oftentimes will say that 8 out of 10 calls that he has with other agents, Real makes the most sense. 2 out of the 10, where they're at, makes more sense. So with that being said, is there like a particular type of agent that you think that Keller Williams would be like the best for?
I think if you're the type of person who needs hands-on, in-person learning, that Keller Williams is probably best for you, because that is one thing they are really good at. They've got a proven training program. Also, you got to be able to handle yourself about 6 months of that income coming in. So if you've got reserves, you can pay for that extra training, you can pay those office fees, and your MLS and all those, then you're probably a good fit for Keller Williams, because I do feel they do that training well. But I do think, the training would be good for that person.
Okay. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And the reason why I asked this question, the other two that are going to follow, is just because I want as much as possible to provide as an unbiased and fair and kind of accurate representation of the brokerages that we've been to, and really speak to our experience, because this is an important decision that people are going through. As it changes your business quite a lot, which impacts your family. And so, that's what I'm looking for, is just providing as much transparency as we possibly can. So with that being said, is there similarly a particular type of agent that you think Coldwell Banker would be like a better option for, rather than Real?
So Coldwell Banker has 2 models. They have the brokerage, the franchisee, and then they have company stores. So I think they're a little bit different fit for each person. I think if you really don't have much of a sphere or influence in your area, you need the marketing of the name brand. And there are certain pockets of our area that, certain neighborhoods, Dallas mostly, where University Park and Highland Park, where if you don't have that name brand behind you, you don't have an opportunity really to get a foothold. So my market, north in the suburbs, people go by more who you are versus where you are. And so for us, that's where it didn't make a difference to step away from a known brand, because people know us so well. We've been in this community for 24 years. My kids have all gone to the school, and we're heavily involved in our church and community. So I think that's where if you are not well known in an area, you might do better with a brand name behind you that has the history and the longevity. But you got to make sure that brand is in that market, not just in the US.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because like Coldwell Banker is not high in anyone's like mind, so to speak, around where I live. You know, it's Sotheby's, you know,
Yep.
Washington Fine Properties, Compass maybe. Those are the brands, but especially Sotheby's. Like if you're a Sotheby's broker or agent, then you've got some initial respect that people are going to give you straight away. But you're saying in Dallas in particular, in some neighborhoods, Coldwell Banker kind of has that presence that has been established for a little while.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's 23, 24 offices across Texas for Coldwell Banker, the franchise we were part of. And so they have worked hard to build their name. Before they were Coldwell Banker, they were a mom and pop brokerage and then joined forces with Coldwell Banker. So, you know, you've got some of the best of the both worlds there, of the smallness, but the largeness. So I think you just, as a realtor, you have to decide, you have to figure out what your most primary need is and kind of articulate that when you're doing interviews, and then see if those things you need align with whoever you're sitting with and interviewing with.
Yeah, because I think you had mentioned before that the Coldwell Banker splits were significantly higher as well. So you're basically, you got to have a situation in which you're able to pay a little bit more, maybe per transaction or what have you, on a monthly basis, and you feel like the primary thing that you're lacking is kind of like branding and name recognition in that area. So, okay, that's good to know. And then we'll just finish it off with Remax, and then we'll talk about Real. So for best fit for Remax.
You know, I think it's kind of the same thing as Coldwell Banker. What attracted to us was the owner, because I didn't share with you, we had made a quick little short stop at a different Remax franchise before we landed where we were for 9 months. We had gotten introduced to the Remax brand, and due to potential overlap of family stuff, we decided not to go to the one that was recruiting us, but to go to one that was like 2 steps from my front door, thinking that all Remaxes were the same. And they are not. Just like not all Coldwell Bankers are the same, or all Keller Williams are the same, because it's very much driven by who owns that brand, that brokerage, the franchise, or who is leading, who's the manager they've put in that office. And so we were given a lot of promises of how that particular owner manager was going to pour into us, and within 2-3 weeks, we discovered real quickly that wasn't going to happen. That's very disappointing. And so we probably should have done a little bit more homework, but we quickly recorrected our path and ended up in the right Remax franchise. And so for us there, we needed a smaller environment where somebody knew our name every time we walked in. They noticed when we weren't there. They called and checked on us, and needed that little bit more smaller environment and feel.
So yeah, that office manager was probably doing something right. And I guess from what I'm hearing, what you're saying is that if you need to be physically present with someone who is going to hold you accountable, and you have found that person, then that might be the way to go. And from what I understand, at least in my area, Remaxes are perceived to be one of the most affordable options. They have changed their splits a bit, I think, in the last couple of years. But in times past, I think that they were kind of running a 100% model. Now I think you have to be grandfathered in order to get that. I think you always are going to be at the most a 95-5 split. You know, and it seems to me that given what you said so far about Coldwell Banker, Remax, and Keller Williams, is that if you're a brand new agent, or if you're an agent that needs accountability and needs someone to basically kind of bring you along, then those seem to be places where it's worth spending the extra money because you're going to get a little bit more hands-on support. So with that being said, you switched to Real. You're at Real right now. Who do you think Real is the best fit for?
Initially, when I came in, I felt like nobody should come to Real unless they're an experienced agent who really kind of had their stuff together. Because as I explained to an agent recently, I said, the brokers are not here to necessarily grow your business. They're here to keep you in compliance oversee your documentation, approve it, and issue your CDAs and sign off on your documents, because most of them are producing in and of themselves still too in their own business. They're not. Yes, we have some brokers who are good educators, but that's not their primary focus. That's not what their broker responsibility is under Real, at least my understanding of it so far. We've got 3 brokers in Texas, and they each have different strengths, which is awesome that we can, I can go to one for like the nitty gritty of stuff, and I could go to another for like local, what would you do? And then one of our other ones is like a huge educator and does CE training for Texas. So they each have their strengths, and I know I can get hold of them at a moment's notice. But we're pretty self-sufficient as a team, because not only am I about to get my broker's license, but I also served as a manager for the Coldwell Banker offices for about 10 months during the time we were there. And so I felt like I had some really good training on how to lead people and how to guide them in their business. So, but now I'm starting to change a little bit, just because Texas has and this is different in Texas. Texas has created a mentorship requirement for new licensees. So brand new licensees coming in must be mentored or join a team for at least their first 3 transactions. Yep. And Real's worked real hard to create a mentorship program that they vet certain agents who have applied to be mentors, and they've drafted an agreement for us to have the mentor-mentee sign so that we can work together. And so with that thinking, I'm like, okay, what if I take all this that I've learned throughout the years about training? I do have an educator's background. That was my my minor in college, and my major was business. How do I take that and create a system that new agents could come into this environment rather than bouncing around other brokerages and spending a lot of money while they're trying to find their way? What if I could create a program to help newbies come in, meet with them weekly, have some of my seasoned team members also help do some training, the things that I've taught them, so I feel confident that they can teach, and help them build their business from the ground up in an area that is cutting edge in our industry.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because that's also what I experienced at EXP. Is they had a 3 transaction mentor requirement, and to be perfectly frank, like after my first transaction, I was a little prideful, and I kind of thought, I got it, but not really. It was that I just felt like I could hire a transaction coordinator to do some of the work that I felt that I needed my mentor to do for me or help me do. And I'm one of those people that, like, I'm not the dot your I's, cross your T's kind of person. Like, I hate the minutia. I hate the paperwork. I'm definitely a people person. And so in my mind, like, the second transaction I ever did had my transaction coordinator on, and every transaction since, I've got a transaction coordinator on. And I feel like that's kind of the same way for a lot of brokers too. Is like, we want a broker who is going to be like deep in the details. They're on the legal, they're on the updates, they're on, what's coming out in terms of legislation. We want them to be representing us to, the state and to the other, powers that be. But yet we also kind of want them to be our mentor and our coach and kind of tell us how to negotiate or what to do in certain situations. But the reality is that particular position requires a real rock star who can either do one or the other, or it requires a brokerage that's able to just split that role into 2 and say, okay, no, we're going to have one person here who's going to keep our agents out of trouble, who's going to make sure that they're going to be in good standing legally. And then on the other hand, we're going to put in place an incentive program to ensure that the team leaders who are out there in the trenches, the guys who are out there, the ladies out there killing it, as individual agents, we're going to give them a platform and an incentive structure to teach the agents, here's how to do social media, here's how to do door knocking, here's how to do, systems in your business. So I think that's really smart on Real's part too, to kind of split those things up and ensure that we can cover agents, needs by the best person. And then what you're saying at the end there, which was basically the dichotomy between really experienced agents doing well at Real versus maybe newer agents struggling a bit more. What you're saying is that we're kind of starting to fill that gap for newer agents as well, right?
I think so. The other thing I'm impressed with, we've been with Real since December 22, is the training that is at our fingertips. Like, in Workplace or in Real Academy, we're able to access any time of the day. All the training that's been held is recorded and held there, and I can go and decide, okay, I need to work on my team leading, skills or team managing skills. I can go to a subject matter training search and find all those classes. I've got a new agent, brand new, 21, brand new. So, and he's like, I'm eager, I'm hungry, I'll make phone calls. I'm like, okay, here, I need you to go to this person's training series, because he talks about scripts and how the language you need to use without becoming salesman-y, like, how do you talk to somebody you don't know? And it's a cold lead. And so I'm able to direct different people who I mentor into the training they need. But the training I trust because it's been being done by top producers. And they're not being coerced. They're not being told. They're volunteering their time. They're not being paid. Yes, they get a little benefit of stock. That's phenomenal, but they're not getting dollars. They're not getting a portion of everybody's commission that's in their classes. They're doing it, and they're opening it up and saying, not only is how I did it, here's what I did. Here's my resources, my tools, my toolkit. And so I think that's impressed me some of the most. I'm not training in that circuit yet. I'll help you someday, but I'm just in awe of some of the masters of the craft that we have that we get to learn from anywhere in the U.S. and Canada. So that to me is like even cooler. Tim Macy, Brad McCallum, love those guys and all that they've taught us just in the short time we've been here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And as somebody who always watches their training on 2 times speed and in the car, like it just fits the way that I learn. Because I mean, like, for instance, I've listened to probably no less than like 80 hours worth of training, and probably more realistically, I listen to probably about 2 hours worth of training per day. And I'm able to do that because, as you know, when you're running around, I'm like, all right, I got a house, that's 45 minutes away. The next showing is, 45 minutes away. I got an hour and a half in the car as I'm just kind of going along. I'm going to be listening to training while I'm doing that. And I said, I've never been to Remax, Coldwell Banker, or Keller Williams. So do they have like online training like that as well? Or is most of it in person? How is their training?
So when we were at Coldwell Banker, it was pre-COVID. Everything was in person. Like if you didn't come to the in-person training, you were lost. That franchise we were part of. Coldwell Banker as a whole, which we used to call like the grandparents, they had some training classes, but again, you paid extra for them. Brokerage level, like training was important to her. She was phenomenal. They had a training center in the middle of the Metroplex. So, but again, you had to come in person. COVID kind of changed some of that, and they started trying to do more Zoom because they had to meet agents where they were at. But I think since, things have let back up, they've gone more to that in-person, environment. I was never at Keller Williams long enough to see any virtual stuff, but I hear they have some now. But I don't know from personal experience. Remax kind of the same thing, and I think their platforms where everything's housed is a little bit clunkier, a little bit chunkier to navigate. Whereas Real, it's pretty simple in my opinion. You can go to the calendar, you can go by subject, you can go by day, and find what's live and find, even the Google Calendar that you can connect to your own personal calendar. You open it up and click on a link. I mean, it's that simple to get to training.
Yeah, it's super smooth. One of the things that was really important to me when I was thinking about making a switch was because I experienced, as I told you, my first brokerage, the technology was the printer, like that was it. Wow. So when I was looking at the next brokerage, I was like, okay, I'm going to look for the brokerage that has the most value, but especially the most technology and the most intuitive technology for me. And so my top 3 at the time were EXP, Compass, and Sotheby's. And so I was, I'd say friends with the COO of Sotheby's for DC. And so we got to talking, and I have a lot of friends at Compass, and I had a lot of folks at EXP. And I thought, okay, I want to go with the folks that are just going to do the best with regards to technology. And that really ended up being, I was surprised that it wasn't Sotheby's because they got such a great brand, but it's so antiquated. But either way, so I'm like between Compass and EXP, and I just could not stomach paying 20% indefinitely to Compass. plus some of the other fees that they have too. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to do EXP. So I did EXP, and I'll just say I was very, very happy with EXP, with their technology especially. But then once I switched to Real, it was everything that I had hoped EXP was going to be. EXP kind of reminds me, in terms of technology, like KV Core. If you've ever used that, it's like a lot of different applications that they bought that they just kind of like bolted onto each other. And so it works, but it's not super intuitive. It doesn't seem to streamline. Things don't like speak to each other as well as they should. You would never be able to have an application like Leo, which would enable you to, pull all the data from your various applications into one AI tool to pull that data and give it back to you in a good format. So with that being said, what's been your experience with technology specifically for those three brokerages that you've been with?
So by far, Reason, which is our platform that we can put it's our dashboard for all of our transactions. That has been the best. It's real clear. It's real. There's no question about where my money's coming from, where it's going, when I'm going to get paid. Texas is a split check state, so we get paid at the table, which is amazing because I didn't realize everybody else didn't have that until I really joined Real and started hearing about the other states and what they do. And I'm like, y'all have to wait for your money? Like, how long do you wait for your money?
Long.
Yeah. Sometimes I walk out of a closing with two hands. So, which is awesome. But even our leases, like at our last brokerage, it would take 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks for a lease check to get cut to us because they had to wait for it to come. Then they had to wait for it to process and clear and then cut and then run in the mail to me in our mail runs. So it would take a while. Now, granted, that wasn't my primary business, but for some of my new agents, it was. And getting that money quickly was important. And so with Reason, like we try our hardest to get the other side to put the check in our hands so that we can upload it immediately and it's immediately deposited. And within 24 to 48 hours, my agents have their money in their account, which is incredible. And if I need a price change or we have, some other date closing change, like I can put it in the dashboard on my phone and within 5 minutes, I have an updated CDA. Like I would have to issue a code blue at my last place. And like, then the manager would run it up the chain as must take care of now. Whereas I can take care of it myself as long as the file's in compliance and the broker's marked it compliant. Those minuscule changes I can do at a drop of, a touch of a screen.
This is a good litmus test in my mind. Did you have to have training on how to use the technology and software at Coldwell Banker, Remax, and Keller Williams? And did you have to have training to use Reason at Real?
So Keller Williams and Remax, where we were there, we didn't have any technology we could put anything into for our transactions. The admin touched it, and that was it. Nobody else touched it but the admin. When we went to Coldwell Banker, we did have to get trained on the program they used, and it continued to improve because it started off very, very basic. But I couldn't make any changes within the dashboard. I could only upload documents and see the report. I couldn't even pull my CDA from there. I had to wait for the CDA to be signed by the broker. Then it would go to me by email, and then they would upload it into the system. But if I had to make a change, a date change, concessions change, appraisal change, then it had to go all the way back through the whole system again, and it would take 1 to 2 days to get back to me. So, and that was with about 1,000 agents that they were managing through that type of a system. So a lot of manual had to be done. Reason, as long as you're compliant with your docs, which that's the manual part, everything else can be done like that from the app, on the road, in the car, wherever I am.
One thing I was thinking about when you had mentioned the necessity of having, being a part of a good franchise with a really good broker in Remax, it reminds me as well of what you're talking about with regards to transaction management from some of these other brokerages, is that whenever you have more human involvement, there's more human error that's going to happen. There's more, an effect that like vacations and like child pickup from school, child has, scrapes their knee or whatever, has to go to the hospital. All those different types of like human chaos can enter into your transaction, affect you. And the more you have technology basically take the brunt of it, a lot of times people like when they are having a hard time with the technology glitching or whatever, usually that's, by the way, because technology is being bolted onto each other and the developer isn't building it all from the ground up in one seamless kind of platform, which is, by the way, what Reason is and what our technology is, not what other places are. But anyway, generally speaking, when you put that technology in place, it creates that streamlined efficiency that not only helps the agent, but also helps the company, the brokerage, become more profitable. And like those are the efficiencies that enable Real and other, brokerages that are like it to charge so much less for their services. And it's not because we're like a discount brokerage where we're providing very little for little, but we're able to provide a lot for little because of that efficiency that technology brings. And the reason why I asked you if you had to have training to get your other technology up and running in the other brokerages is because that's a great litmus test. If you don't need training to use technology, you can just open application, kind of fiddle around with it a little bit and know what you're doing and use it. That's a sign of like well-designed software. So let me ask you that. Did you have training to your Reason?
No, I mean, it's very intuitive. It makes sense. Anybody who's used any type of software, upload system in the past, data entry, it makes sense. You're putting in your clients as a CRM. You're uploading documentation with a little paperclip, and they even have a splitter in there. So if you have one file, you can split it amongst the different places you need to put it. Our communication with it within Texas has gotten better because there was some little glitches initially where brokers weren't getting the messages. They fixed that immediately because they're like, oh, no, keep all the communication here. Let's not go outside the platform, because then we have the history of it. It's all in one place. And I will tell you, so in 2012, while we were at Remax, my dad passed. And the technology at that time made it very difficult for me to step away completely during that time to support my mom and take care of business still. And it was just my husband and I mostly at that time. Our broker was great. He really stepped in and took care of things for us here. And my mom and dad only lived 45 minutes north. But I was in the hospital room sending emails and sending documents and just trying to make sure I had everything in their hands so that when he did pass, I could step away. Fast forward to 2019, we were at Coldwell Banker and my son passed away. The team in the office we were part of, this is what made it hard for me to leave, was they took such good care of us. Technology was better. My files were already in compliance. They were already uploaded. I didn't have to worry about it. Matter of fact, I don't even really remember the closings that happened within those couple of days because I wasn't at them. And it was good. And it was the hardest time of our lives. Fast forward to this year. My stepdad passed away. My mom remarried in 2019. And I didn't even have to touch things. My assistant was able to go into my files, pull stuff, do things. It just became, part of that is our world. Part of that is our technology world has gotten better and better. But part of it is the system that Real has created to make it so that when life happens, because it will, that your business doesn't suffer, your clients don't feel it, and everything still closes, everything still happens. And it allows me to be focused in the moment of what really matters. I mean, one of the things that I love, I hear from Sharon, is be where your feet are. And when you're in a hard time, be able to be fully there. And when you're in the joyful times, be able to be fully there. And just love on people, the work hard, be kind. That was who we were as a company, my husband and I, before we came over. And when we saw that as one of the top priorities of Real, we're like, you're us, The other thing is putting the client's needs first. That was the motto at Coldwell Banker that we already felt in tune with that. We carry that forward. Real has that same initiative: is take care of the clients, and then we take care of you. And that's the model. That's what I love about Real. It's real. People are real. They're real who they are. And there is a platform for everyone at Real. Whoever you are, wherever you serve, whatever you do. My husband's a veteran, and 2 other of our team members are veterans. We love serving our veteran community. We want to take care of those who have taken care of our country. We've got families that we take care of, kids with disabilities like our son had. We want to take care of them. We want to take care of our town. And so Real gives us more opportunities to do that because we get to keep more of our money and decide where we're going to use it to support our community rather than,
I, all that resonates with me because, everyone wants work-life balance. Everyone works alignment between their values, and they want to be treated in a way that they treat others. And I think that the shining virtue of pretty much every real estate agent that I've come across is the fact that despite whatever other people think in the outside world, we give a damn. We really care about the people that we're working with, and we are people who care most about people, and we have empathy. And it's heartbreaking when the folks that have these types of values that isn't reciprocated to them, and I think that that's one of the reasons for why people are coming to Real is because, yes, on just a grain or just on a superficial or a baseline level, yes, they are providing, a better, financial model. Yes, the technology is enabling you to spend time with your family in the times that they need you the most. But on the flip side, it's but the humanity of the company in how agents treat each other, in how leadership treats the people that are part of this company, that's the thing that I think is most attractive about this company, is that the values that are shared between folks, those are the things that people really, really care about. And I think at a baseline level or at a subconscious level, I know that if Stephanie has the same values as me and she values those things as strongly as I do, that we will work out the details. If you know that you got to, at the bottom of your heart, be kind to the other person, look out for their good, be virtuous in the ways that you can, try your best to love the other person on the other side of the table. And the other person, who, not just the agent on the other side of the table, but everybody that you're in contact with. When I work with another agent that has the same kind of mindset, I never worry about whether or not the deal is going to fall apart, whether or not this particular inspection is going to screw up the deal or whatever. Or if just some piece of the negotiation is just going to derail things, someone's going to get offended or whatever. You don't have to worry about that because you know that you're working towards the same goal. And I guess that's what we're experiencing between the brokerage and the real estate agents. We're not adversarial, we're working together towards the same goals. So that's a really beautiful, testimony. And I appreciate that you'd be willing to share that as well.
Yeah, you bet. It's about helping others. And when we're helping others, our stuff doesn't seem nearly as important sometimes when we get into their lives. And so, but in my life experiences, I've been able to share those with my agents and with my clients and say, hey, I get hard. I get tough. Let me love you through it and let's move on. So,
yep. That's that's the name of the game. It's, you got to have both, right? You got to have the value, you got to kind of have some of the toughness of accountability, and you got to deliver on your promises and all the rest. But at the same time, you hold the person in high esteem, and you love the person, and that's the motivation for why you have to kind of push people as well sometimes to achieve the goals that they're looking to achieve. So I'd like to end by just asking you one more question, and that would be, if there's one thing that you could communicate to somebody who's listening to this, who maybe is at Coldwell Banker, at Remax, at Keller Williams, and they're not 100% sure what they're looking for in someplace else, but they're open to the idea of a new change that would help them. What do you think is the one thing that Real can do to, maybe it's the one thing that Real has done the most to help your life in particular? And maybe that'll apply to them. Maybe it won't. But what would be that one thing for you?
I think, one thing. That is a hard question because it's so much. There's just been so much. But I think if they would just have a conversation with someone who is passionate about loving real, and let them share their experience, I think it can meet everybody where they're at, but it's not for everybody. So I was not open to a conversation early on. I was like, I'm content where I am. I love my people. I love our brand. I love the blue. Blue's one of my favorite colors. Now pink is. Pink always is my color. But anyways, be open. Just see if it's a fit for you, because you just might find something that you were missing that you didn't know you were missing. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, is because there's so many amazing things with real. They're not trying to be one size fits all, but they're going, okay, here's a pocket that we can hit, and here's another pocket we can hit. And then they hit it well, and they're like, okay, is there another pocket we need to fit into? And as they do, it's fitting more people. And so, but if you're not into collaboration and being kind and working hard and supporting each other, this isn't the place for you. Bottom line, that's who we are.
Yeah.
All across the board, every place I've been. And since we've been here, I have seen Real make some tough choices with agents who weren't following along with that. And I applaud that, because we all need to be in this together. So I would just say, look for what it is you need and see if we've got it. And then if so, let's join forces and take care of each other.
Yeah, I think that's a great response, because a lot of times you can get on YouTube and watch a lot of videos and do a lot of research and do a lot of comparisons between one thing or the other. But there's nothing like sitting down with somebody else who's knowledgeable about what it's like on the inside and have that conversation to find out, hey, what are the things that you're actually looking for? What are the things that you actually need? And if me or you, as somebody who's guiding them, in that decision, we're like, hey, listen, you've got this, and the third that are like holes in your business or things that you could, improve upon. Here are the things that Real could or could not do to fix those things. If those things match up, great. And if they don't, hey, c'est la vie. It's we want to see you do well in the place that you're in, if that truly is the best vehicle to get to where you're trying to go. So I definitely love that answer, and I, again, really appreciate you spending the time to share this with me, to share this with the people that are watching this video. And if someone's interested in speaking to you about Real and, finding out a little bit more about how it might apply to their situation and whether it'll get them to where they want to go, where can they go to talk more with you?
So my cell phone's my best way. I know a lot of agents don't like to give out their number, but that is the most direct access to me. So my cell is 214-566-8277. You can also go on FetrowRealtyTeam.com as our website. It's real basic. Like, we don't spend a lot of time and bells and whistles on that, because you can search properties anywhere else, and you can get connected with me there. I'm on social, Facebook and Instagram, mostly Facebook. So I am the only Stephanie Fetrow out there. So you will find me that way. And just reach out to me. So I'd love to help any agent in Texas, or, connect you with a specialty agent in your state where you are.
Perfect. Yeah. For instance, if you're in Maryland or, you're anywhere else, you want to talk to me about, joining Real and whether or not it may or may not be a good fit for you, I'm happy to do that as well. I'll include Stephanie's information in the description below, her phone number and her website, maybe your email as well. And I'll put mine in the description too. And that way, if you think that this is something that you want to pursue, you can talk to either one of us, and we'd be happy to help you out.